Owning a cheap Range Rover means accepting that things will go wrong. They just will. But nothing stings more than when you're trying to stay ahead, to look after it, and it still finds a way to bite back. The truth is, the work on one of these will never be finished. And I'm okay with that, I think. Right, we're all packed up, ready to go carry out this minor service on the TD6. Got my own tools. My friend does have a unit which is huge and got a load of stuff in it, but he has no tools whatsoever at the moment. So I'm providing those along with some more here. I would really recommend one of these, by the way. It's a diagnostic tool. I know a lot of people use that particular Range Rover one, which the name has escaped me. I'll put it here for when it comes back to me, but that seems to do a pretty good job for the time being, and it does all my other cars as well. I probably will do a review on that. I think it was 150 quid from Amazon, so would recommend. Got my little 8 litre drain pans as well. Annoyingly, the TD6 takes up, I think, 9 litres of oil when you do a service on it. And yeah, so there'll be a bit of spillage potentially on that. But more annoyingly is buying the oil for it. It's obviously cheaper to buy oil in, I guess, bottles of 4 litres and end up getting 3. So I've got 12, so I'll have quite a bit left over. Also got ramps as well, although my friend does have a jack and stuff. I think it will struggle to actually jack this up. So what I'm thinking is I've got a set, my friend's also got a set. We'll put 1 on each wheel, so 4 obviously, and then we'll put it in access mode as well. So it'll go up quite high, so you should be able to get under it pretty easily. There's a few other things I actually want to look at under the car, particularly around that exhaust rattle as well. So anyway, let's get going to Halfords. Let's go get what we need. Alright, oil, lots of oil, and a few other bits and bobs. I'm really hoping that's the right oil filter. If not, I've been betrayed. Anyway, yeah, we've got all this jazzy stuff, so let's head to our mate's unit and get it done. First things first was getting the L322 up on the ramps there. Only a little bit of height difference, but it does help. Apologies for the blur in there, my friend was doing something rather rude. Whilst the car was on the ramps, we thought we'd also have a look at this rusty, corroded downpipe. As suspected, it was causing the noise, so that does need replacing as well. Next up, I'm just trying to crack the sump plug so we can get this off and start draining the oil. This one wasn't on overly tight. Some people seem to absolutely hammer them on, but this wasn't the case, and it did come off quite easily. Like any master mechanic, I'm trying my best not to get any oil on me, hence why I'm quite tentative here, but as we probably all know from working on cars, that very rarely happens. And this was no exception. Here's me missing the entire sump pan. Absolutely great work there, all over my friend's unit, so as you can imagine he was absolutely buzzing with that. I did clean it up, but yeah, it did take a bit of elbow grease and brake cleaner to get it out. One thing you might notice is the oil here is pretty damn mucky, which probably ties into the service history because it was probably due an oil change, and I'm really glad I did do it because with something this dirty, any new oil can only improve it. And it definitely did, to be fair. The new oil made it run a lot smoother. It sounded much quieter. So if you do have a TD6, I'd really recommend keeping on top of the oil changes, not just for general wear and tear, but just for noise levels. I was actually really shocked at how much quieter it was. And it was also good to know I didn't waste about 80 quid on oil. It's always a bonus, isn't it? You know, no one wants to overspend when they don't need to. So yeah, all round pretty happy with the oil change on this thing. Also, Google was right, the L322 TD6 does hold more than 8 litres, so my 8 litre oil pans filled up pretty quick, hence the need for the second one, which only meant more spilt oil, so yeah, that was very good. While we wait for the oil to drain down, which obviously takes a while, I thought we may as well get a head start on the air filter for this thing. Now, it's quite an easy air filter to actually change itself, only a couple of bolts, but it is a very, very odd shape. As you can see here, not like any filter I've changed on a car before. Normally there's sort of a square piece of paper and that's it. This also doesn't look OEM, looks kind of too nice to be OEM, but let's dash it in the bin and put a new one in. One thing we did notice in it, looks like something's been nibbling on this wire here, which isn't particularly good. Something's made a home there. Opted for a standard Bosch filter, which funnily enough looks nothing like the photo of the box there. Got that in place, and then it was straight on to the oil filter, which is as mucky as the oil that you can see on the floor. Managed to minimise any drippage, which is always a plus.
and off to fit the new filter as well, which again was a Bosch one. I'm just here adding the the dirty filter back to the existing pile of oil while the oil still drains out. So I finished up the minor service, if we can call it that, whatever. Yeah, the car was running absolutely great afterwards, sounded much healthier and just ran a little bit smoother. But as any Range Rover owner out there will know, no matter how hard you try to take care of these things and, you know, with the best intentions, look after it more, some issues will rear their head, and that's exactly what I had happen a few days after this.
Tell me you're in a Range Rover without telling me you're in a Range Rover. Lovely. And she's alive! First time start after having this thing plugged in. I would really recommend these, but you don't have one. Absolute lifesaver. So, yeah, and apologies if you can't even hear me over the noise of this. As always, when Range Rovers die, you get some form of warning lights. And we've got, I think, just air suspension. So that's not too bad. We'll take that. Just plugged in the diagnostic tools, hopefully. It'll just be a case of clearing that and restarting the car. I've just left the charger on just for another minute or so and got the engine running.
Now, it's just a simple case of just scanning the car with a diagnostic tool and clearing any codes that popped up. Usual suspects for me, especially on Range Rovers, around air suspension, hill descent control, wheel speed sensors, etc. Sometimes the gearbox fault comes up on this. I don't know if this is just down to my particular car or it's just a thing that actually pops up usually when it comes to these. But yeah, I know it's not good to let your cars drop voltage because all cars can be susceptible to issues when this happens, and Range Rovers are especially sensitive, I would say. So yeah, if you can avoid it, do just run and use your cars and put them on a trickle charger. I usually do have my cars on a trickle charger, but at the moment the Range Rover just wasn't on one. So yeah, that's why this has kind of happened. It's quite clear that it needed a new battery, which I did eventually order, but not without a bit more further punishment and yeah, just probably outright laziness from myself there. Thankfully on this occasion, there were no further issues. The fault cleared very easily. It weirdly didn't clear off the dash straight away. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but I found that if you just take the diagnostic tool out, lock the car, leave it 30 seconds, come back in, turn it back on, it's fine. So I guess it just needs a bit more of a reset than usual. But yeah, got off quite easily this time round, but that can't be said for the next time this issue arose, because it was much worse.
A few moments later.
Right, so got a little bit of a problem. As always with these, the battery seems to go. I do have a replacement battery I got a while ago. Just not had time to fit it and just not had time to use the car. Anyway, gone to jump the car with my trusty chunky battery pack, but for some reason I think the battery's that low that it is not liking it. So it's not recoverable from a jump start. Now that's fine because I've got a spare battery. The problem is these are a pain in the ass to fit because you have to move this completely up. I also have no way to access it because I've got it parked right next to a bush. So this should be fun. Oh dear. So somehow I've got to get all the way down here to get that when I have no room. So fun task. Right, I've brought the new battery down. That's an absolute trek. Got to somehow fit this. Christ, I'm out of breath doing this. Right, this is where the fun begins, I think. Ow, just smacked my head on that as well. Lovely. How much space have we got? Right. I can get down here, that's fine, but I don't think I'm going to be able to pull that out even when I put this in access mode. Anyway, let's see where we get to. Right, first one of these is out. Normally they're quite difficult to get out, but I think this one's been here before. This thing is literally covered in cobwebs. I need to give it more attention. I'm hoping once I've got rid of one or two cars, this can actually live in the garage. That is the plan. It's just my luck that the one in the bush is the hardest one to remove. So we could be here sometime. Right, I suppose this is a lesson learned. We're never doing this again. Keep it not next to a bush, or at least keep the battery topped up unused. Right, we've managed to get them off. This thing is like a big sail right now, so hoping the weather, which looks quite grim, isn't going to be too bad. Anyway, so I'll crack at this then. Ooh! Oh, that is rather unnerving. Oh my god. I don't like this at all. Right, they should be fine, they're both on. Anyway, let's crack on. Alright, negative is out. This bonnet is moving a lot, which is scaring the hell out of me every time I do it. But thankfully so far, although I have zero room right now, it isn't actually that bad. But I'm not looking forward to having to lift this thing. I thought it was going really well. These clamps, oh, there we go actually, ignore me. Got one clamp out and then this one was being a bit snide with me, but it seems to be being a bit more gentle now. Come on. Oh, I'm hoping that's got something on the bottom. Yes. Right. Let's get this thing up and out. God, that is tight. My new battery looks enormous. I'm not even joking, let's have a quick look. Is that even going to fit? Oh no. Right, managed to get it out, which is good. There's a little bit of water in there, but I'm guessing it's just from this drain that's slightly leaking, but we can sort that out. It might even just come through on that seal. Anyway, the only thing that concerns me is that only just came out with me detaching that. And if you look at the size difference, that is quite a chunky difference of a battery. Holy hell, that was so hard to get in. A few little war wounds, but oh my god, my fingers. Ow. She's in. She does look enormous, so I'm hoping the winter crank power on this thing should be ridiculous. Right, and that is hopefully job done. It's a little bit messy here, but they're both secure, which is the important thing. Those are all in, wires are back in. Let's see if she now fires up. I'm not 100% sure if you need to do some coding for a TD6. With it being BMW, it's obviously a little bit different to Range Rover. That's a good start. It's on. She's alive! Air suspension inactive is pretty common. We'll plug it into the code reader and give that a bosh. Turn all this off. Is there any other fault codes on there? Date? No. No. Range 42 miles, so it needs a little bit of fuel. Well, she seems fine. It cranks well. And we just need to get this bonnet back down, and this thing needs a good scrub, and it needs a bit of TLC at the moment. She's been neglected recently. So anyway, I'll get this bonnet down and then we'll tidy up and get everything else sorted. All right, air suspension fault has gone off. Everything seems to be fine. I've just taken it for a quick spin up the road. Not only the key fob seems to have unsynced itself, but apart from that, I think that is mission accomplished. I know battery change is completely bog basic, but yeah, apart from the slight war wounds, it was fairly painless, although I did not make it easy for myself by parking it against a bush. So yeah, anyway, hopefully this battery lasts a bit longer. I think there is a slight drain on this car, but we'll have to find out where it is. I did think it was this, but I haven't plugged it, so it can't be that. Anyway, quick update, guys. The key fob now officially works. Oh, you alright? Yeah, this took me a lot longer than I actually care to admit. No real proper process to it. I found a video where someone shows effectively you put it into the ignition, turn it to 0.2 so that you can see the lights and everything come on. I can turn off, and then effectively you pull this out. I won't do it because I want to unsync it or whatever, but you hold this unlock button and press this, the lock button, like 3 times, so 1, 2, 3. Didn't work the first few times, and then as I was losing hope and thought someone was mugging me off completely, it just randomly worked. So yeah, right now I have a working key fob. So thank you, YouTuber, who I forgot whose name you were. If I can remember to put it in the video, I will add it. So yeah, that's good. Saves me faffing about unlocking it manually and then running to put this into the ignition to stop the alarm going off. So very good.
And since then, the car's been running absolutely perfectly, no problems whatsoever, until, rather ironically, the day I decided to start editing this video. Yeah, on the day I nearly finished editing this video, I got a lovely little surprise.
No, God!
So, for some reason, the air suspension was inactive when I got in the car. I had not used it for a couple of days, battery seems fine, no problems whatsoever. Yeah, it's just there and not clearing with the diagnostic tool. But it runs fine. It doesn't actually feel like the air suspension is inactive. Like normally I find the steering goes really light, but if I'm honest, it's going to be a 2026 problem. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys have a fantastic Christmas and a great new year, and I'll see you then.